Okay, welcome to the Divorce is Not an Option podcast. My name is Stephen James Dixon with my wonderful host, Tamara. Tamara, pronounce it like.
Daracel.
Daracel. We talked about it's French, right?
Creole, yes.
Creole. It's a difficult spelling, too.
It's not that complicated.
You got two S's in it, right?
No, it's one S, two L's.
One S, two L's.
You are funny. Okay, let's get back in focus. Hey,
Terrible
y'all.
names. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Please be sure to subscribe and follow our podcast so you can be automatically alerted when we produce a new episode on iTunes, Spreaker.com, Google Play, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And tell a friend and repost and retweet and send this podcast out to everybody.
Remember one time I called you and I said, hey, a person had a problem with me mispronouncing her name? Now you really see what I mean when I said that's my flaw. Like I know I have a flaw with I don't know why. I really don't.
Some people are just really bad with names, but sometimes when you have like me, a name that is constantly mispronounced, and that's my first name and now my last name and my old last name too. But you start to feel like people just don't care.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm not good at it. I can't. Like, I know the things, actually, that'd be a whole nother podcast, too.
Yes.
Like, I really have a really good idea. I had to talk to a client yesterday. I'm going to have to do that real quick anyway. About just accepting who you are and knowing your faults. And this person didn't know his faults. Like, he just didn't. And I was like, I know mine. And I know, like, one of my flaws is mispronunciation of names. And then another one of my flaws is numbers for some reason. Like, if you tell me, 32, 45, 58. Like if I was doing a lock, and you say 32, go 32 left, 45 right, 58. I'm not good at that.
Well, so self-awareness is critical. And what's funny is, I just had this conversation because I'm the opposite way. If somebody tells me a number, I got it. But if you just tell me what, we gonna have for lunch, I'm gonna ask you 3 more times until lunch. So, but yeah, I think it's really important to know your faults and you're right. A lot of people just ain't self-aware.
Right. And let's hit that real quick because it was like a 2-hour going back and forth of me saying, okay, you don't understand your faults. Let me give you mine. Right. And I really should have included in this. Like, I wish I had the notes from it. I got it somewhere. Well, I basically was running down like, I know that I'm dominant. I'm controlling. I'm somewhat arrogant. I somewhat know that or believe that I'm always right, even though I know that's impossible. I know it's impossible.
That is not possible.
But I still think I'm always right. I'm not really apologetic. Like, I apologize, but in my head, I feel like, okay, the only reason I got to apologize is because you did something wrong or you didn't take it right.
So, okay, I think that's a homework assignment, though. I think everybody needs to write down their own personal faults. Don't think about your partner. Don't think about what's wrong with anybody else. Just write down your own faults and add to that list. Make it a work in progress. You may not get them all today.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the key. You may not get all of them today. And I'm pulling it up right now, actually, because you said that. And I kept sending, like we were just talking over, I kept sending text messages because I would think of other things. So some of the other things I said, I feel like, hold on. I thought I just had it.
Well, okay, so I know the whole name thing, that drives me nuts. Like, I will actually introduce myself to someone. I'll say, hi, my name is Tamara. And they'll be like, oh, hey, Tamara, nice to meet you. I'm like, that is not what you just heard.
Okay, so what I said was, I'm defensive, I'm prideful, I'm unapologetic. I do not regret not one thing I've ever done. How about that?
That's a big one.
Like, I recognize how big they are. Like, I'm not like in denial about how ludicrous, but I just can't, but I stop and I think, what do I regret? Like, cause I maybe I rationalize it too much. And I say to myself, I understand in the moment why I made the mistake I made, or I feel like I made the best decision at the time.
But honestly, that's an Oprah mentality. Like, there are no mistakes. She will say that because every action leads to where you're going.
I can explain everything I did in the moment. I can explain everything I did. Like I'm just not that guy. You know what? I just thought of one mistake. when I was in college, I had a really good friend.
Your whole life.
Just one. It was a really bad one. When I was in college, I had a really good friend. It's just my homegirl, just we was cool with. And she wanted to visit her boyfriend, in some other city or something like that. And somehow I rented her a car.
Okay, what's wrong with
that? She drove the car to Florida.
Oh, okay. So your mistake was being nice?
My mistake was being dumb. Like, why would I rent a car? I was a freshman. And I don't know. I was just maybe I was naive. Or I was dumb.
I mean,
it cost me a bunch of money.
I get that, that is irresponsible, honestly. But I don't understand why out of your entire life, that's the only mistake that you think that you came up with.
Because I cannot think of a reason why I did that. I don't have a good justification of why I would rent another person in college a car. Like, think about it right now. Like, isn't that ridiculous? Would you ever rent somebody else a car and just let them drive off?
That's how my daddy got my mama.
Okay, but I didn't have a relationship. We were just cool.
No. They weren't together. He actually, this is the story, and his boys talked about him so bad, but he got her in the end. My mother was a freshman. My father was in grad school. She had a boyfriend from home, and they became friends. They met when she was moving in, and he was, with the Alphas. Alphas do a big move-in thing at UT every year. So the Alphas were helping all the freshmen move in. So, she becomes friends with my dad, and of course he's interested in her, and she tells him her boyfriend is coming in town and she's not 25, so she can't rent a car, and my daddy rented her a car.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Your dad had go back and ask Daddy, did he have ulterior motives at the time?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I didn't even have no motive. Like, I wasn't even feeling her like that. She was just a cool chick. And she was sad because something was going on with her boyfriend. And she was like, I can't get to him. I don't know what's going on. And I'm thinking like I'm renting a car in Dallas and she driving to Houston. And instead she drove to Florida in the car. So she both lied to me. And so then I had to pay to get the car back from Florida because it's in my name.
You had to pay to get, oh no, that's crazy.
You see what I'm saying? And then thinking that's all I got.
Okay, so you did this for someone who was actually really disrespectful and using you.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you feel like your mistake wasn't so much what you did, but how you got treated.
No, my mistake was, why would you rent a person a car?
Putting yourself in a position to be mistreated.
Yes. Why would you why would you rent a person a car? It has to be, no, you don't rent it. Like, it got to be life or death. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be like my mama's dying. And I'm the only person in the world that can get. It's no Uber, it's no Lyft, it's no relatives. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no bus, it's no planes, it's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no reason to rent a person a car. Like, why would you take that liability? And I'm the total opposite now of that. Like, I don't, like, if somebody came along and said, hey, you want to drive my car? I don't want to drive your car. You know what I mean? Like, I'm one of those dudes, I got to have insurance now on all the rental cars and all that. Like, and I've never had a problem. Except for that.
Yeah, I'm not that person. All right, so let's bring us back. Let's bring it back.
Wait, hold on. Wait, throw one of yours out there. What mistake you made?
What?
Or some of your self-evaluation.
So I was going to say, I don't have a problem admitting my mistakes. I would have a list. So I don't have just one.
Wait. On the list, no mistakes of boyfriends.
Well, that's all of them.
See, that's I think that's the same amount of ridiculousness that I got going on. All your mistakes was believing a lie that he told you. That's what you about to say.
Basically.
All of them. Okay.
And financial stuff, helping him pay his rent or, yeah.
No, Tamara, one that doesn't involve another guy.
Okay.
I got you.
Yes.
You about to just think I was crazy. Come on, honestly, come on.
I don't. The only thing that I would say, okay, so now I guess I just got one, but for me, yes, because all of my mistakes were all about trying to chase after some little boy. So I really, really wish that I had gone into college with a different perspective. And honestly, now that I'm thinking about and saying this, it's kind of a lifelong theme. But I wanted to impress. I wanted an engineering degree. That sounds good. But I didn't really think about what I really wanted to do with my life. So if I could go back, I would have gone back and majored in something more artistic.
That's good. I think about that too. That's a good one. But it's hard for me to think that I made a mistake. That's tough, Tamara, because it afforded me a lifestyle that I enjoy.
But who's to say you couldn't have the same lifestyle? Or better?
That's always going to be the debate. Well, you know what? I could have potentially ended up at the same place. Mm-hmm. It would have been just a gang of years of struggle in between. You know what I mean? Because like as a teacher, for example, a teacher, a professor, or whatever, you start out the first couple of years, you're not really making a lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it may be 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, because even though we started out making money, I mean, like the conversation we were having the other day, you got student loans, right. you started big balling. I got out of college and bought a house because, I'm big and bad. Right. I mean, it kind of ended up being a blessing that it was a house, so it was a responsible thing to get, but I was young and I didn't necessarily make the best investment choices with, the house that I bought. But, it's just you buying. I had a friend graduate from college, got a Beamer like the day she graduated. So, you still making these big money moves with money that you think is big money, but it's not really all that big.
Yeah. One last thought on that. When you said your approach to college, I remember a friend of mine went to Wharton, which is like the graduate school mm-hmm. for University of Massachusetts. Very prestigious, Ivy League, blah, 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 right? And I said, hey, tell me what's the one thing you learned while you were in school? Pennsylvania, you're right. I'm expecting nobody to know. You know what I'm saying? You're right, Pennsylvania. So, yeah. And so when I asked him, I said, what's the one thing that you learned in school? And he's an African-American guy. And he said that the white people were there. He said, I went to school because I knew that once I graduated, I would get paid a lot of money. He said that was the mindset of all the black people that I mingled with.
I need a degree to get money.
I need a degree. I'm going to get paid so much money when I graduate. Boom, boom, boom. Right? He said the white people and many of the other cultures and people who came from, Asia or whatever to study at Wharton came there to learn how to start a business. Yep. And he said, they are light years ahead of us, just in terms of thought. Like people don't come to America to get a job for the most part, we have a lot of people that's come recently, especially with the influx of Indian folks for jobs and things for IT because they don't have because they don't have that in India. Right. But for years, people were coming to learn how to start a business, mm-hmm. and even with folks coming from India now, the influx of the H-1B visas, they may be coming for some type of ulterior motive too that we just don't know what it is yet.
I mean, they own whole neighborhoods and grocers, and they're entrepreneurs. And it's anything. Like I had a Nigerian friend from college, and I ran into him the other day, and he owns his own mortgage company. And I'm just like, wow, and that's just, their whole mindset is you come here and you build a business.
Well, you know what? Oh, this is a good sidebar though. And really it's a mindset that we've been in America, basically, that you're supposed to work for somebody, mm-hmm. I never had a thought of being an entrepreneur at no point until after I had already invested in college to learn how to get a job.
Right. And that's just,
when did you ever start thinking about that? When did you ever start thinking about, this job thing may not be the best thing?
So, my roommate, after college actually started her own business, I guess about 5 or 6 years after college. And that was just like wow, that was a light bulb to me that this is actually possible. And, I helped her with her business and then, so I actually started, contracting myself out. But I didn't actually cultivate that and try to grow that into a business where I was contracting multiple people for the simple fact that I didn't like the sales aspect of it. But it was about 5 or 6 years out of college before it even clicked to me that this was possible.
And you definitely could have done that. you definitely could have built that business at the time that you were thinking.
Yes, I definitely could have, because I was making good money just contracting. Like I, had a couple of contracts just for me. Of course, I was working myself to death. But it was, really like I was able to pay my house off.
The mindset of, okay, I want more. Like we were so easily satisfied with what they were giving us. You know what I'm saying? And it took me a very long time, man, before I decided, you know what, I need more than this.
And we get so sidetracked with the shiny things. So, the Beamer or the Benz and the house. And when you realize you don't need that much house, you don't need, the expensive car. And really what's important in life are not those shiny things.
And I didn't recognize that until I got
exactly.
Like
and now I got the note on.
I got the 4,000 square foot crib. I got the Mercedes-Benz convertible. And then once I got all that, once I was riding around in a convertible and it got cold and I didn't want to ride around with the top down no more, I was like, I really don't need this. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm really like, I had to buy another car because I didn't want to drive my convertible in the winter because what's a convertible in the winter? You know what I'm saying? Like it's a wagon or whatever.
More and more that I am reading, more financial advisors are saying the biggest financial mistake that people make are cars. You buy one car and you can roll that thing till the wheels fall off. You pay it off and you go years without a car note. And if you invest that money, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars over years that you could have versus people who lease a new car every 2 years.
Yep. And the thought behind that, and when I first started my first business, I did medical recruiting and placement, and I made a bunch of money out the gate. But then I couldn't brainstorm enough, or I was that would be a mistake. I was too fearful to get help to expand my business. Like I didn't want to take the risk of having a venture capitalist. Like I met venture capitalists and all that, and they could have given me money to float my business while I was waiting on contracts to be paid out. And I was just like, nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to give them half of my bit. Like I didn't have the foresight to say, okay, half of what I can potentially earn is more than what a company would pay me.
Yeah. I mean, our fear of failure and our fear of not being in control of the outcome stops us.
Our fear of failure, and our inability to gauge risk, and then I learned that the more I communicated with my friends about things like, hey, look, we should not be working. We should leave our jobs. My friends, I got very smart friends, very well-to-do, all college educated or educated in some fashion, and none of them really were interested in risk at all.
Yeah, that's totally normal. And that is what we're conditioned. I mean, the whole mindset, even things like you talk about, like we were talking about paying off a house, paying off a car, and just holding on to your stuff, getting out of debt, the whole Dave Ramsey model, that is so foreign to people. Like people just think you're supposed to be in debt.
You know what? Let's keep the sidebar thing going. Tamara, tell people how you paid off a house.
So I was blessed. I will say I'm thankful for everything I had, and I did. I worked basically 2 to 3 jobs at a time. They were well-paying jobs because I was charging by the hour. But I took every single extra penny that I had for 7 years and put it in the house. As opposed to, first of all, I got a 15-year mortgage, which afforded me a lower interest rate. But
how did you know to get a 15-year?
It was actually my second house. So the first house, I got a 30-year mortgage. That's what you do. And then I started refinancing and playing with mortgages and recognizing that, I buy $100,000 house over 30 years, it really turns into a $300,000 house. So, I grew up with, we don't give money away. So that was my whole thing. Why am I giving you $200,000? So that's my second house. I was like, okay, let me look at other mortgage options. And one thing that I think is a misconception, sometimes people think, oh, well, if a a 30-year mortgage is $1,000 a month, then a 15-year mortgage is $2,000 a month. And that is not how it works. one, your interest rates are generally lower when you have a lower mortgage period. And so whereas your 30-year mortgage may be $1,000 a month, your 15 could be $1,200, $1,300 a month.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say exactly $1,250.
Yes.
That's what I was going to say.
So I'm like, okay, so you put in an extra $250, you cut off 15 years of mortgage.
Yeah, man. Like, do you think like that? Is that some kind of scandal or conspiracy?
Oh, yeah.
Like really, there should be no 30-year mortgages. There really should not be any 30-year mortgages.
It's all predatory. And what's crazy is they're moving to 40-year mortgages now and beyond. It is totally predatory. And then, if you die before that mortgage is up, they get the house back unless somebody's going to pay for it.
Yeah. And then just to be very, very clear for people who are homeowners, go refinance your house and get a 15-year loan. Your payment will go up $200.
Wait. Now you got to look at everything and do all the research. It might not, with all of the origination fees and everything, it might not benefit you to actually just straight up refinance, especially depending on how far along you are into the mortgage. So you want to look at all the numbers, and that's the biggest thing. Look at all the fine print, look at all the numbers and do all the calculations. But if you're already in a mortgage, most likely just pay more.
If you haven't like for example, I owe like 23 years on mine. Next year I'm gonna go back and get it financed down to 15 years, and I know my payment's I'm anticipating my payment dropping than what it is now. But you're right. I was going to correct myself too and say that if you're already in a mortgage, you probably could just pay it as if it's a 15-year mortgage and it'd have the same
exactly.
benefit.
And then, somewhat. You'll get some benefit. But the other thing is that mortgages are you have to look at a whole bunch of different things as far as like how the payments are put towards your interest towards your principal. So some payments might require you, if you're doing additional payments, to actually call them and tell them, hey, this is going towards principal. Otherwise, they'll put it towards interest, which does nothing for reducing the amount of mortgage that you owe.
When they put it towards interest, what does that mean? That just means like you pay January's interest. Okay, so I paid November, December's around the corner. I call in, I pay my December payment, and then I send an extra $1,000 and they put that towards the January interest.
That's a simplified way of looking at it. So basically when you get your mortgage, they've already amortized how your interest is going to be. Like you're going to be paying, okay, so if it's $1,000, $999 the first month is going towards interest. Next month is $998. And so you send in an extra $1,000 and they might say, yeah, okay, so this month is $997. We're going to put that towards interest and then $3 towards your principal.
And really what I'm doing is I will pay my mortgage off a month earlier, but I'm still paying interest on that extra $1,000 that should have went to principal. Man, I hope people following me right now, man. So let's be clear again that if your loan is a 30-year mortgage, and we use simple terms, of course, if a loan is a 30-year mortgage and you pay $1,000 a month, that if you go to a 15-year mortgage, depending on the interest rate, your payment might only be $250 more.
So you can definitely take a look at the numbers and see if it's doable. If not, like we have a whole mindset in this country, like, oh, I'm getting a tax return. That's a whole nother subject that I'll get into, that I don't agree with getting tax returns in the first place because you're giving the government interest-free loans. But so then you say, oh, I'm getting a tax return. You take your little $3,000 tax return and you go play with it. Take that $3,000 and put it on the house.
Oh, I would love to go down there too. We just jumping all around because I think that's so important, man. We don't have these conversations. I really had no conversations like this about and my mother has bought like 4 or 5 houses, but she still never had insight of paying off a house or a type of loan. My mother's like, yeah, you get a 30-year loan. That's it. You know what I mean? And now I tell everyone to get a 15-year loan. As a matter of fact, my brother's in the process of buying a house now, and I haven't told him that.
Well, yes. And also tell him all of this stuff is negotiable. Like, I just learned this last week, because you know how you hear, if you don't put 20% down on the house, you have to pay PMI, which I don't know what the PM stands for, but it's interest. Basically, it's insurance, for them, that you're going to pay the loan. So up until you hit that 20%, they charge you PMI. Well, I just never even thought about it, but that's negotiable.
I didn't know.
So you can say, hey, I'm giving you 10%. You have 10%, and you have that I have an excellent credit score, or you see that, my payment history or whatnot. That's enough insurance for you. I'm not paying you PMI.
Another thing we could throw out there is when you're running your credit report, when you're doing things like that for any type of interest rates, make people give you what they would offer based on you running your own credit score instead of other people running it for you. Like, I think you could walk in what you want if your credit report with your debt to income ratio and say, hey, what would you give someone who presents this type of information to you? Because what they always try to do when you go to a bank is say, let me run your credit. And I don't like all that. I don't believe in running my credit all the time or whatever. Dave Ramsey will say, why are you in the bank running credit?
Yeah, that's true. Because, at the end of the day, Dave Ramsey says credit is a joke. Why do you need credit? If you have money, you don't need credit.
If you have money, you don't need credit. Okay, Tamara, also tell folks about, without telling all your business, take a moment if you have to, tell people about investing and preparing for, retirement.
So at the end of the day, your biggest asset is time. So, a lot of us, we're getting older, and it's getting a little bit scary. So no, you don't have as much time as you would have when you're 20, but this is great advice to give to your kids, so that they can start at 16, 17, 18, building up portfolios. But if you, I heard Suze Orman say, if you put in $100 a month from age 25 until retirement, you will have at least $1 million based on the market, just an average market. I think it's like 12% or something. So the market doing what it's always done over the last, 100 years, you will have at least $1 million. If you wait 10 years, I'm sorry, go ahead. If you wait 10 years and start at 35, that $1 million goes to $300,000.
If you go from 35
until retirement age, like 60, 65.
But see, that can't be correct, because you went hard for like 10 years and you have more than 300,000.
But exactly, I'm saying $100 a month in this scenario, just $100.
Okay. So what I would like to say is, let's say, because our listeners are not that young, they're really, really old people. Just talk bad about them. And so let's say that one of our listeners right now is 40 years old with no 401k. The most that you can contribute to your 401k a year is $18,000. If you figure out as a 40-year-old person how to contribute $18,000 a year for 15 years, I'm confident you will have enough for retirement.
Well, first of all,
how confident are we that? I said, how confident would we be with that statement?
I think.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead,
so I would say, one, we need to be thinking about more than 15 years. Two, when you hit a certain age, and I'm thinking it might be 50 or 55, those limits increase because you're closer to retirement. So you can actually invest more at that point.
I think it's 55. Mm-hmm.
So I think the focus that we need to have, and of course there are single people out there, and it might be a little different. For me, even though I was single when I started doing this, one, I was planning for a family, and two, if I did not have that family, I wanted to, I have nieces and nephews, and, I wanted to leave something behind. So I think that needs to be our focus. And I think that's been the missing link for a lot of us because wealth, the majority of wealth is built generationally. And so for white people who have, who have ancestors who came to this country in 1700, 1800s that were given land, that land, and the wealth from that was passed on generationally. And then you have the entrepreneurs who build these big businesses and are able to pass on Trumps, Hiltons, things like that, able to pass on this wealth. And we haven't really thought about that. I mean, my grandmother just passed away and was able to leave something for all of her grandchildren. And I think that's amazing. That's not usual. So if we have the mindset of there is no cap on how much I want to invest because there's no cap on how much I want to give or leave as a legacy. So I would say just max out. Yeah, I think you could definitely within 20 years be a millionaire if you're maxing out your retirement contribution from now until from age 40 to 60.
So if you're 40 years old and you don't have much of a retirement, don't panic, but definitely put in place a plan to sacrifice more going forward so you can, and I did something for the first time to you that you always do to me.
You went online?
When I'm just talking, yeah, that's funny. You guessed that. When I'm always just talking and you go look it up, like I'm like for all the listeners out there, it's often I'm just talking and making up stuff and not researching nothing. And Tamara just will look it up and say, okay, that's not correct. So I just looked it up, and actually, you are right. At the age of 50, you can do what is considered a catch-up contribution of $6,000 a year. So you can do so if you're 40 years old, you can do $18,000 a year until you're 50, and then at 50 you can contribute $24,000 a year. And there's so many tax benefits of that. Like me and my wife definitely next year are starting. Well, not starting. You're right, but we're definitely taking advantage of the $18,000 for the 401k. We're taking advantage of the $5,000 for the dependent care account that's tax free. We're taking advantage of the $6,300 or whatever for the healthcare benefits and all that kind of stuff for deductibles. We got some healthcare things like braces and all that we want to do next year. So I'm taking advantage of all those tax loopholes.
Right. So if you start now, you have time to definitely have a good little nest egg by the time you retire.
Man, that's good. See, I'm glad we went off on that tangent because I did not know about donating. Well, I knew about it, but I hadn't really put it into my plan of preparing for retirement that at age 50, I need to, figure out an extra $6,000, a year to contribute.
Yeah, because one thing we have to keep in mind, if you bought your house at 20, 25, by the time you're 50, you should be getting close to having that house paid off. So you should have a little extra change to be able to put it aside.
You know what? And then, and some of the things that let's talk about. Let me talk about too, since you Miss Perfect did everything so right, even though you're trying to say you made mistakes. Some of the mistakes I made financially.
Oh, you done found some mistakes.
Did I make mistakes? Can I call them mistakes? We'll revisit it later. Well, really, when I was talking about self-evaluation, I was more along the lines of personal self-evaluation and not financial. I don't know. Maybe it's a good excuse, but I can say now, all yours is based on dudes, so I don't know which is better. You perfect outside of dudes. What does that mean? Who's better? Who's the better individual, Tamara? All your mistakes is based on dudes, And so what I would say is one of the things that threw me off when I came out of college was I had a lot of stock, but the stock wasn't worth anything and the company wasn't paying dividends. So I didn't understand the value of keeping stock, right? I've since learned that stock is about a 7 to 10 year investment
at minimum.
Right. And so like I was looking at stock over 3-4 years when a company was going up and down instead of, looking at it long term and saying, maybe 10 years from now it's going to grow and blah, blah.
So your two biggest things you want to think about, one, like you just said, is time, and two is diversity. So one stock, you may have an awesome stock and that's great, but you may have a stock that don't do so well. So if you just got one, you're taking a huge risk.
Yep. You're right. And that's the mistake that people make too. Probably I had bought a lot of stock. I was working at Verizon at the time and I was choosing in my 401k to contribute to the Verizon stock. Right. And if you're doing that, like Tamara was saying, you need to diversify. If you're working at AT&T or whatever, I would say definitely get, a financial advisor to advise you on how to diversify your portfolio. But I'd definitely say, I don't know, no more than 25% on the stock of the company that you work for. I guess unless you work for Google or Facebook.
And even that is taking a chance, I mean, it's still up and down. So I wouldn't put all my eggs in one basket.
And then another mistake I made was once I got to a point when I had like maybe 25,000 or something like that in my 401k, I would see like over a year, I may have earned like $1,000. And I'm like, man, how can I continue to grow my 401k if I'm only earning $1,000 a year?
Again, if you diversify, that increases your chances of your money growing. But back to what you were saying, it's time. So, 25,000, over the course of 1 year is not that much, but you keep contributing and that money grows. And generally a portfolio will double every 10 years. So that 25,000 may have been 26,000 in year 1, but it may be 50 by year 10.
Right. And actually, I think too, what I would have needed at the time that would have helped me if someone would have said, I didn't know that it would double every 10 years, but then I don't think it will take as long to double again. Like it might be cut in half. It's tough to get from like 0 to 25 and it's tough to get from 25 to 50, but it gets a lot easier to go from 50 to 100 and then from 100 to 200.
Well, yeah, but it's doubling. So if you think about like 25,000 to 50,000 in 10 years, that 25,000 is 100,000 in 20 years. And then it's 200,000 in 30 years. So that's a lot of compounding going from 25,000 to 200,000 in 20 and 30 years if you just don't touch it.
Yeah, that's definitely something else. I think and really now to get off of the whole money kind of topic, really, I just didn't even have the mindset to take everything back we just educated people on. I just didn't understand retirement. I just was like, I'm 25 years old. Like, you want me to prepare for something 40 years from now?
That is definitely a hard concept. That is delayed gratification is a concept a lot of younger folks don't have, and it's something we need to learn. I was blessed, and you talk about me making all these great financial decisions. A lot of it was my daddy. My daddy just said, "Okay, invest in your 401k, max it out," and I was like, "Why? I'm 23." But I was like, all right, I never had a check before. I didn't miss the money once I started, putting it in and that was the blessing for me, was that I started at a point where I was going from zero to now I have a paycheck, so I don't miss the money. I think that's the difficult part, that, if you're 40 starting and you've already budgeted out and you have your bins, you have your 4,000 square foot house. Now it's like, okay, I got bills. So you have to figure out how to rearrange your budget so that you can get, basically not have that money.
You know what? I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one of the things that stood out for me in that book was when he said that your money that makes money, you use to play with. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm making 100,000 a year and that 100,000 a year profits me 30,000 is what I can play with, not the 100. And too many of us try to play with the 100 and the 100's not making any money. So meaning you buy a house, and then say you buy a house and you set it up as a rental property and you're getting $1,500 a month on that rental property and your mortgage is only $1,000. So that means your profit is $500. Your play money is that $500, not $1,500.
But see, I would say you don't have no play money until that house is paid off. So my thought process would be, until you get that whole house note paid off, then there is no they're.
Ooh, unless your husband has the same mindset, he hates you so much.
We learning to be in the middle. It's definitely like, I don't know, and I thank God, but I don't know where. Well, I guess I'll say my grandparents, but and my parents, but I even still, my parents, even as financially savvy as they are, look at me like I'm crazy, because they'd be like, "You have the money," and I'm like, "I'm not spending it." So I don't know where all of this came from, this whole mindset. But at the end of the day, I want to be free. And as long as I have to go into an office every day, I'm not free.
Yeah, man. That's why I got to too. Like, and really, and now it's even more complicated than that, because that's first level is that you're not free because you have to go to the office. The second level now is job security. I mean, at any time, man, at any time. There's no such thing as job security. And really, I was talking to someone the other day about how 30 years ago, everyone had a pension. Then 20 years ago, everyone had a 401k where the company was doing a full match of 6%. And then 5 years ago, it went from 6% down to maybe 3%.
It's optional.
To now, a lot of companies it's optional, don't even have a match at all. You know, some companies don't even offer 401k anymore. Well, maybe they offer 401k, they just don't have a match. And so we're getting less and less and less, and more and more.
And Social Security is gone, going.
And Social Security is gone. So so we have to figure out how to take care of ourselves. We really, and then I was thinking with my wife, like, I was really this year, because I know I'm settling down a little bit with my entrepreneurial spirit and what I want to sacrifice and what I want to give up. And I was sitting with my wife figuring out our financial plan going forward. And the more I spend time looking at the finances, the more I learned that it has to be a long-term planning session. You know what I'm saying? Like we just talked about paying off houses. You know what I mean? Like, I really got to think in terms of, okay, I want to pay off this car in this time, in 2 years or 3 years. And here's all the things I want to pay off in this time. Here's what I want to invest. Like, I'm really trying to plan out the next 20 years for real, with my wife right now. And
I think that's really, really excellent and really, really necessary. But I would like to say we're about to run out of time. So I wanted to hit the big stuff that we were trying to talk about as far as what's going on today. I'm just, they were talking about Matt Lauer, and and I'm not like totally shocked by this, but I mean, just like, it's just every day it's inundated with somebody. Bill O'Reilly, Harvey Weinstein, I mean, Donald Trump, Roy Moore, Charlie Rose. It's just, and then the dude from NPR. Did you hear that?
No,
I forgot his name. But yeah. It's a lot.
Right now, I'm watching CNN, and it's some reporters following some brothers. And so as we get off this podcast, I need to find out who these brothers are that they following, because it's probably something. They just live reporters following two black guys and a white guy in suits. Like, what? I don't know if they're in Congress or what it is, but I'm gonna figure out. Yes, I'll let you know. I don't know what it is. Just live right now. I'm watching it on CNN. And this also, can we go ahead and settle the debate? Our long 10-year debate. You guys don't get that up. You know what I'm saying?
I really don't think people respect the women's sex drive. Like, I really think that we always talking about men's sex drives, and you hear more and more about couples where the man is not trying to give any up, and and women leaving men or cheating on men or whatever because they're not getting enough. So I felt like we were disrespected and our sex drive was disrespected. But you know what though? I don't think I'm gonna say you win. I'm gonna take that back.
Are you serious?
I'm gonna take that, because I don't even think it's so much about sex drive. It's about stupidity. Women have enough sense not to get caught.
Okay, so our long-standing debate is that I feel like men will sacrifice more and take more risks to be sexually satisfied.
I will say that you won that. If you put it that way, then yes. Yes.
Because we get caught. We do it. I mean, they say Matt Lauer. They got Matt Lauer on video or audio telling women to bend over, in the studio. You know what I'm saying? Like, bend over. Ooh, I like that. That's a nice look. It's just, just come on, man. Like, you cannot do. And what was sad too is I was having, conversations with, some guys earlier, and I had to tell them, like, some of the guys were like, man, they're really coming for dudes. And I was like, no, this is real. Like, it's not like I believe the women. You know what I mean? Like, dudes with power have no idea. Like, they're just not real people. Like, they're not dudes with power and money.
Yeah.
Matt Lauer was making $25 million a year.
But I mean, that's the whole thing. You just have this concept that you're untouchable, so you can. Okay, so you can just do whatever you want to. But this guy, okay, Garrison. I don't know if it's Kyler. I don't know. But anyway, so that's the guy from NPR. And, apparently a lot of people know him. I don't think so.
Is that a black guy?
But the chief of NPR's newsroom also earlier this month was gone for sexual harassment. It's everybody.
Huh. Yeah, I got to figure out who this is that they following, man. But yeah, it's tough out there, man. All the women that have gone. I actually had a friend go through sexual harassment at work. She talked to me about it.
Okay.
Oh, well, let me tell mine. You can tell yours if you choose to or not. She actually filed, with her, HR sexual harassment. She was getting sexually harassed by the boss. The boss, through nepotism, had a father who was higher up in the company. And 6 months later, they figured out a way to fire her. Like, they sent her home, say, oh, no, since you don't have to work, since you work with him every day, you can work from home, so you don't, have to feel like, every day you have to deal with it. And so they sent her home, and basically the story became, because she's at home, she's not producing on the job or something like that, and got rid of her.
That's the world we live in. Well, I mean, mine was, we had a costume party at work. And I was like Diana Ross, so big hair, and kind of a fitted dress. And this was when I first started working. I was about 20, 25, 26, and I had no clue what to do. But my manager just, had been drinking and came up way in my personal space and was like, if I had known all that was under there, I might have found a different position for you. Yeah.
Wow. White guy? Wow. How did the relationship go?
I did. I had,
just let it go.
Like at that time, I didn't know what to do. I was trying to move up in the company. I was, not trying to rock any boats. And thankfully, I was on a project where I didn't have to see him every day. So I just avoided him as much as possible and left it at that. But I was just saying, I was in a bad position altogether. I was working for a client in Peoria, Illinois, in the middle of nowhere. And it was just all old white men. So I just felt like I couldn't tell anybody.
The thing too, that I tried to tell some men was that women don't actually want to relive. Like, people always say, well, why didn't someone say something about it earlier? Why didn't you say something about it 10 years ago? Why is it just coming up now? And I had to say, women don't actually want to.
They just want to pretend it didn't happen and keep it moving.
Traumatized. You know what I'm saying? Like, a woman doesn't really want to go to someone and say, hey, a guy grabbed me by my breast or my bottom, or it was in my personal space, or, offered me something and I felt horrified, or, women don't want to communicate. They don't want that to come out of their mouth. Like, last thing I leave in is just, I challenge you to just think about that. Think about if someone sexually harassed you, would you want to tell anyone? But see, that's the thing.
I think as a man, you don't have the same mindset. Even if you think of it as, well, if it happened to me, yeah, I would tell somebody. Or men think, I just punch him in the mouth. So it's just a whole different thing for women. Okay. Well,
all right, close us out.
What am I supposed to say? Thank you for joining us this week. Be sure to subscribe and follow our podcast so that you can be automatically alerted when we produce new episodes on iTunes, Spreaker.com, Google Play, YouTube, and SoundCloud. And don't forget to retweet, repost, share, tell a friend. We appreciate you. Bye.